Every human alive today comes from these barmen.
The world after the flood was silent. There were no cities, no voices, no footsteps across the earth. Only the wind moved through a land that had just been washed clean. It felt like everything had ended, but in truth, everything was just beginning. Standing on that quiet earth was Noah, a man who had seen destruction and survival, and beside him were his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. 3 men, and from them the entire human race would rise again. At first they lived close together. One family, one language, one shared memory of a world that had been destroyed by water. They built, they planted, they survived. But something inside them began to shift. The earth was too vast, too open, too full of possibility, and slowly they began to move. Japheth was drawn toward the unknown. He would stand at the edge of the land and look beyond the horizon, not with fear, but with curiosity. His descendants carried that same spirit. They moved toward the coastlines, toward the islands, toward lands no one had ever seen. They became explorers, settlers, builders of distant civilizations. Generations later, their blood would flow through nations across Europe and beyond. They would cross oceans, discover continents, and shape the world again and again. Japheth's legacy was expansion, movement, the desire to go further than anyone before. But Ham's path was different. His descendants moved into lands rich with life, fertile soil, and powerful rivers. These were places where civilization could rise quickly. And from his line came a man unlike any other. His name was Nimrod. Nimrod was not just strong, he was a presence. When he walked into a crowd, people noticed. Not because he demanded attention, but because something about him made others follow. He was a mighty hunter, but more than that, he was a leader. He was the first to say that humanity would not just survive, but build, organize, and rule. Under his influence, cities rose from the ground. Babylon, Nineveh, powerful places that would echo through history, were not accidents. They were the result of human ambition at its earliest stage. For the first time since the flood, humanity began to organize into systems, into kingdoms, into power. But with power came something else: pride. The more humanity built, the more it began to forget. Forget the flood. Forget how fragile life was. Forget who had given them a second chance. A new voice began to rise inside the human heart. A voice that said, "I can do this on my own. I do not need God." And that voice started here. But there was another path: Shem. If Japheth looked outward and Ham reached upward through power, Shem looked inward. His legacy was not written in cities or empires, but in something deeper: connection. From Shem came a lineage that carried something invisible but powerful: faith. His descendants included Eber, and from Eber came the Hebrews, a people who would carry a different kind of destiny. They were not the strongest nation nor the largest, but they carried something the world would never lose again: a relationship with God. While others built kingdoms that would rise and fall, Shem's line carried a promise that would outlive every empire. As generations passed, the world began to change. Languages started to separate. Voices that once understood each other became different. Families became tribes, and tribes became nations. The earth, once united under one story, became divided into many. Different lands, different cultures, different identities. And yet, if you go back far enough, past every border, past every language, past every history, you arrive at one moment: 3 brothers standing on a quiet earth after the flood. This is not just a list of names, it is a map of humanity. It explains why we are different, and why we are still connected. Because no matter where we come from, no matter what language we speak, or what land we call home, we all come from the same beginning: the moment after the flood, when the world started again. And this was only the beginning, because soon, humanity would attempt something even greater, not just to spread across the earth, but to rise above it, to reach the heavens on their own terms. And when that moment comes, it will not unite the world. It will divide it forever.